My fellow old rollers, welcome back to the show for his second episode. Priit Mihkelson, who's, if you're listening on audio only, is making a very upsetted face. I don't think his afternoon coffee's working out for him.
It's actually tea. My wife did to me. Very lemonish.
Oh, okay. Well, I like a good lemony tea, so nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Okay. Well.
So the last time we brought you on the show, we talked a lot about the origins and some of the theory behind your defensive BJJ style, and a lot of the things that you teach, some of the innovations that you're trying to put together within your school and in the greater community. And so this time I wanted to go a slightly different direction. I wanted to talk about things on more of a practical level of what sort of what was your early journey in jiu-jitsu like? I know in America, 10-15 years ago, jiu-jitsu was not very ubiquitous, and there were not a lot of schools and not a lot of opportunity. And I would imagine in Europe, you had some similar scenarios of what you had to go through in the earliest days. So I kind of wanted you to talk about like your beginnings in jiu-jitsu and what led you on the path to where you've come to now.
Well, I was 17. It's a very, I think, long story, but I was 17. Then I did basketball for most of my life. I think I started from the 3rd grade, and I did till 9th. And then I was kind of like I wasn't dumb. But my mom was a teacher, and she said she doesn't allow me to go to high school because she's seeing guys in the school that's only one notebook and they're just slouching and stuff. So she knew it wasn't dumb because I played basketball and I was we call it like a mini basketball, but I was like Estonian in that age group. I was Estonian's best player.
Okay.
I was very obsessive. I didn't have any friends, so to speak. That I've always been like a loner. That my obsessiveness kind of, I lived through basketball and stuff.
Yeah.
So that was my escape. And then after 9th, I went to technical school. I studied 5 years of telecommunications. So I got my high school diploma and like a job certificate.
Yeah.
And in that course, I think second course or something, I met my fellow classmates were doing some martial arts. One was doing Aikido, and I know some did karates. So I think it was 92. I went to the technical school, something, yeah. And kind of, I wasn't a pushover, but I think. I was a little bit like, let's say, soft or something, But then kind of my dad influenced me a little bit, and all those Bruce Lee movies and stuff. I was looking for something to do, and then I ended up joining a karate school. I still believe that my dad kind of, I don't say he pushed me into that world, but more like wanted to make a man out of the boy.
Sure.
And because he was very open-handed with what came to fights, that I was more like laid back and but in that in a weird way. So then karate. Then
quick question there: was fighting sort of a common part of Estonian culture in when you were growing up?
Not really. I think also some people actually to this day ask, my dad is gone and my mother is my mother is still alive, but they've asked my parents or more my mother that did I join the martial arts school because they hit me as a child, and that's like like a people's correlation that I want to hit somebody else because I got hit in the face a lot. I never even got whipped. Like it was very common that with the belt and stuff, dads were hitting kids, and these days it's forbidden.
Yeah.
So I never got that. They just locked me into the dark room, and let me deal with some anger issues I had. I have a very quick burst of anger.
Yeah.
And then I just dealt with that. There was a lone room, and I sweared an hour, and then I came back, and I was a nice kid again. Kind of like a simplified story. But so they kind of, this was actually, I think, very healthy for me to deal with my anger and stuff. So yeah, I think I got a bit bullied because I was, obese thing wasn't a thing in a Soviet Estonia or Estonia back in a day. But I was a little bit chubby, so you kind of could call it like a fat, but I was more like a, not like obese fat. I was more like a chubby. So I guess there was some name calling, but because I played so good basketball, and if in a class or something, people had to pick teams and stuff, so I was always the first pick basically.
Yeah.
So kind of people left me alone because they needed me. So I don't remember that I got so much bullied, but I remember some incidents. But basically, that's kind of basketball kind of saved me. I think could have been worse. And then so yeah, but I think people fought, and I've seen some glass fights and stuff, but it wasn't like every day or something. But yeah, so then karate, and then I think I did karate, I don't know, 4 years or 5, and then during the karate time, I also did aikido 4 years because I had too much free time and I'm very obsessive. So and then the year actually pretty fuzzy because I don't remember everything by year.
Mm-hmm.
I know my coach, karate coach, that actually died in some point. He was very influenced by soft styles. So we did some, Tai Chi stuff, and we did some Wing Chun patterns and stuff. So, and I remember, I think when he died, the club was left to me as a young kid, like, I don't know, 23 years old or something. And then I know that I was also a Tai Chi coach. The coach actually that we were under was from US, Scott Rodell. It was a Michuan Daichi Chuan. So he was visiting Estonia once a year or something. So I was a Tai Chi coach. Actually, I ran classes, I think, twice a week or something. And I think did karate, if I remember. And then because of my coach died, I remember that in some point we left to Wing Chun because, there was a Bruce Lee time and all those Jackie Chan movies. And so, and the Wing Chun came with a lot of big slogans of kicking the nuts and punching the eyes out. So it was very, very.
I love that shit.
Yeah, so it was very street fighting like and very violent. And when karate was saying, don't hit anybody first, and more like a kind of this kind of oriental style, Wing Chun was like, we're gonna kick the shit out of you. And so my teacher was in Finland, but then there was other Eastern Estonia guy that contacted Germans. It was a Leontine Wing Chun system. There was a big guy, big name in Europe in Kerstedt. So he was a big thing in Germany back in the day. So they sent a main teacher from Germany.
Mm-hmm.
So, but also the Russian guys with interesting stories. Why I talk about Wing Chun, the Russian guy. So he was a former sambo guy. So he introduced us, and I think he has done also some Vale Tudo fights or something. I've seen very early days that I've seen some no holds barred fights his student did, but he gave us some first sambo lessons. Taught about how to scissor body locks and how to squeeze kidneys and arm bars, do arm bars and leg locks.
Yeah.
So, and then I remember we did like a Wing Chun, and then we also had a small group, like a 3 to 5 people. We did in a very long kind of shooting range area. That was, every school had a weird fact that I think, let's say every school had a school like a shooting range. So that was like a strange fact. And so we had like a mats there, and nobody washed those mats probably, I think, during the years.
Excellent.
Yeah, so I'm amazed I'm still alive, kind of. But so then we stood like a grappling, and we did Wing Chun at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And then Wing Chun was kind of the pyramid scheme in the end. So, and then we started to do, like, every month or every other 2 months, we started to do Bloody Thursdays. So we put gear, helmet, cups, everything, and then small gloves. and then we tested stuff, that we wanted to do the self-defense Wing Chun stuff, but grapplers, the people that had knowledge of mount, back, and arm bars and stuff, they just kicked everybody's asses.
Yeah.
And mount and clinch elbows and mount punching, everything became so dominant that all that Wing Chun stuff barely worked. And so we started to have more legitimate questions about the efficiency of those things, and what we were told and what evidence was when we practiced.
Yeah.
And always answer was, oh, you have to train more,
Mm-hmm.
to make it work. And in some point, politics and everything, the way the Wing Chun as a pyramid scheme is built. So we left 2005 February, I think we left, and opened not first actually Estonian school. The other guys did it earlier, some South guys. But then we left, and then 2005 May we did like official body, like a official club, 3D training, like a 3 distance training, so stand up, clinch, and ground.
Yeah.
And so that's the official part. But I think unofficially we started, I think 2000, 2001, something like this. There's been some elements here and there that we did, not like as a group, but there was some, Sambo seminar here, Sambo
Mm-hmm.
there, and we occasionally did some wooden floor sparring with the knee pads, And I think I've trained jiu-jitsu also on a ground in a forest. I think over the time of the summer. I remember, I don't know what year it was, but we got kicked out of the school during the summer because we trained there, that in the basement or whatever. So I remember we trained 3 months on the grass, and then grass gets dead, and so it gets brown, and it's very pointy. And then we moved to another place, and then after 3 months, there's a lot of brown places, under the trees.
Yeah.
So I've been through that grinder of just loving the sport. I don't know why, and then just training wherever I could. And 2005, and pretty much the rest is history. So I never had my own gym. We always rented times.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people, they just take some place without the ventilation and showers, and they just start to do right away. So I think I didn't know how to do that, or I was scared, whatever. So we always rented times from some judo halls or something. So we rather had a nice place like a mats and showers and stuff.
Yeah.
Instead of having just our own place and not having those things. And recently, just I think 2017 August, now we got our own gym. The big place, 1,000 square meters.
Yeah.
And that's like this August now, 2020. It was 3 years old now. So that's like a big story. And so I was kind of the first nut, I think, that started to do that. But right away, I think but there's some people who very politely put, they also want to debate who was first or not, but there's clearly some bunch of people, they did it, and maybe some started here, some there, but that's like a short history of how I got there.
So what fascinates me about that, from talking to you previously and knowing, being familiar with your work, you have really emphasized the idea of using the scientific method, as a means of exploration of grappling potential, of like what actually works, what doesn't work. And it sounds like, whether deliberately or maybe it's just a part of your personality, those same things were happening in the origins of your martial arts journey, because you were initially working with Tai Chi and Wing Chun, and like really trying to be good at it, and then you would get some grappling seminars and some Sambo seminars, and then you guys would just get together and test shit out, and it turned out that the grapplers were kind of having their way with people who didn't have an understanding of how to move that way. And go ahead.
Yeah, so I know, because I agree with you in that sense, but it's actually, it's very hard to change, if you've done something like a Wing Chun for long, and then you have to meet yourself that those are actually hard turns, because I appreciate I was able to do them. But when somebody really annoys me, then it's a long burn, and finally it's like, okay, fuck it, You have to admit. And then I got also people together. I got all the Wing Chun people together and explained everything, why I do that choice and why I feel. And then I wanted to understand that they understand why I'm making that choice, that what's behind that. And I've been lying to them, and I had to lie to them because I was told to lie, and all those things. And it was really hard to admit, although, because you get so deep in it, then it's kind of hard to turn back. So I don't know why that logic thing kind of works for me. And what is the? I think a lot of people are using the scientific method. That's how we discover things. I think maybe I talk about it more, and it's like, oh, scientific method. But I think most people, then when they test stuff and add sweeps and stuff, they still test stuff, and then they tell people I have a new sweep and I've tested here and there. So, but I clearly, but I see that clearly there's some areas that people haven't tested, and some techniques are just floating around and just confusing people, and making the water more muddy than it has to be.
Mm-hmm.
That certain attacks are weeded out right away when the defender is doing the right thing, and it's super hard to pull it off. And so other martial arts have done those things, boxing and wrestling, that you don't teach takedowns that works on people that stand on straight legs and they straight body. You just don't spend time teaching those things.
Mm-hmm.
You right away go like, okay, this is a double leg that works with some modification also on Olympic level, sweep single and stuff. And then you just get good at those things, that you learn to take down people that know wrestling, and then taking down people that don't know wrestling is even easier. It might also throw people off when they see like, oh, this standing in straight legs, is he very smart or very stupid? Sometimes people go like, oh, it's a trick. But I feel in jiu-jitsu we're teaching some things clearly that that the baby bridge or whatever can ruin right away. And then the question is, what is the value if the defense kicks in and the techniques works right away differently? So why are we not, defending or attacking everything like against the best defense? So we have to go like, okay, this is the best defense here, and now how to beat it. It's not like I don't say that nobody can beat me and nothing works. Clearly, boxing is this, the jab, you block, and you can do this. So we don't learn boxing against this, but we learn boxing against the best defense, very short motion. And then we learn to beat that, because it is hard to beat because it's very short and you have to have traps and feints and stuff here and there, but it's still beatable. So but in jiu-jitsu sometimes, maybe that we do a mount americana and somebody just grabs their arm in a mount bottom, and you do armbar. So this is silly, that any educated person will not do that. So why are we teaching those things? The argument is usually, oh, but those are school techniques, like just for beginners. But what is the value in them as a combination? Because right away, if you teach escapes like elbow knee escapes and everything, they can't do it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So why we're spending and why we're making them good in those positions, when as first class you go mount escape, they don't do that anymore. And so why not showing them situations that occur in a basic level and then more advanced level, and then just it makes more sense. Why do I have to relearn stuff and why do I have to do those things? I don't mind if you learn basic Americana and there's place to also somebody pushes and you do armbar, you can go. But I would even always teach those things. Why not? But I would say disclaimer. This is what happens when somebody's stupid. They're panicking,
Right.
know anything, and this is when it works. It's fun thing to do because in jiu-jitsu we don't expect that that reaction. So just as a game, or what to do.
Yeah.
So usually I would add certain disclaimers that what it's for. But most of those things that I'm talking about, that Americana and you do this and somebody armbars you, or even let's say people put let's say put the arm to the collar, yeah, and some person grabs the arm, and then you get armbarred.
Mm-hmm.
So this is again silly, because we should teach people not to grab like that, because the grabbing is actually in a way wrong. So And then when the good defense comes, if somebody grabs, first of all, I grab elbow, really down. I don't grab
Right.
like this, so you can have a hook here. Maybe I even grab differently the arm, and maybe I grab the elbow also, this way, not over, because I know if I put my arm over, so you get underhook right away. So why are we teaching those things? I think they have to be there, but more like a gamified explanation of when people are really silly and doing wrong things.
Yeah.
But if I put the arm in, what is the best defense? What they have to do, and then how do I beat that best defense? So my message is more like this: so we should. I like to watch jiu-jitsu through that, because if I can beat the best defense, I know how. If I know how to beat the best defense, then it takes time, years, as a this kind of jab block to develop to the Olympic level boxing. So it takes years, but I'm also starting to develop the right thing right away in the first days, so to speak. And it takes time to get good at this. And if I meet the less effective defense, it works also. So then I think we're like, maybe I'm not saying we have like a one thing learned to compared to 100 things to learn, but I think the amount of things we learn are actually less, because also the evidence of competition in a high level shows that we don't see half of the things. Even if you go to spectrum of black belts in different weight classes, we don't see, like, I don't know, over half of the things we learn in our studies when we do jiu-jitsu. So why we're learning those gazillion techniques, as a math example, I always do this. I'm not good at math, I think, but the usual argument is that throws people off, and it's like a trick a little bit. But I hope you understand the message, and people who are listening to this also later, is like, it's fair to say that you learn two techniques in a week. Two techniques in a class. Yeah, usually like sometimes three, but let's say two techniques in one class. And the average person, let's say, trains twice a week. So then it's fair to say that you have four new techniques, in 1 week that jokingly your coach picked for you and you can never forget. So in 2 weeks, you have 8 new things, sweeps, submissions, passes, whatever, in your game that you have to train and time and everything. Yeah. In a month, you have 16 new things. You can do the math till the year. So, and okay, you can say, Priit, it's not fair. There are not always, new techniques. So I can go like, okay, cut it in half. Maybe some are concepts and stuff, but still, so 16 was 1 month, but you have 8. Then after we cut it in half. So you have 8 new sweeps or submissions or so as a black belt, done jiu-jitsu like 20 years, I cannot put 8 new things in my game in 1 month. And we're asking, beginners to do that. And I understand it's different when they start to learn jiu-jitsu. Then, certain amount of knowledge accumulation is bigger. You have to introduce things and stuff. But after certain 3-4 months, it cannot go on like this. And that's usually complaint is by people that it's too much and they feel they're stupid because they cannot get the knowledge. I just learned this sweep and now we have a new sweep. And I couldn't make that even work. And now we have new things to do. And they're feeling like they're loaded with this information and they can't make it work. And then they spar and then they mostly don't use the stuff they learned anyway. And then they end up doing whatever random stuff they end up doing. And so I don't think there's a nice efficiency of between what you learn and what the outcome of sparring is. I think there's so many things you don't use in sparring that you do actually in a class. And I would like to, make it more efficient, so to speak, that the things you actually learn, maybe there's option to not learn that much or not teach that way. So people have more accumulation time, or how to make people more use those stuff in sparring. So that's why I also talk about in my YouTube lecture of how to get better in jiu-jitsu and stuff, how to train and how to have specific sparring rules. And so people can, force things also in sparring they just learn. So kind of that's my own message about more like I want less people quit jiu-jitsu. Point is that if it looks less overwhelming, if they can pull off the stuff people are teaching them, and it doesn't look so technically abundant, So I think the task ahead I think it would look to people more doable. And then so that's the scientific method also helps me. So I'm watching, let's say I'm doing that, because jiu-jitsu teaching is like an experiment. So you do an experiment and then you watch people roll.
Yeah.
So if they during the roll they don't do the stuff you taught them, so what was the point? So the point is to make them do the stuff, that, yeah, it's a little bit different experiment than the scientific method goes. Like they watch the life, and then you replicate that you want to learn those techniques that work in that life, so to speak.
Yeah.
But you can also turn it other way around, that do you like, you can go like, what I teach, can I see it in them, or what is the efficiency ratio? I don't know how I call it in English, that I teach 10 things and they end up using one,
Right.
so clearly that is not,
I'm
clearly that is
sorry, my
not a good
son's
ratio.
one of my son's toys is in here, and something is sitting on it, and it keeps going off. Let me get rid of this shit.
Okay.
I don't know which one it is. I think that's probably not it. Okay, I'm gonna hang out over in this area and see if I can find it. It's something is in the is moving around and hitting this toy, and it's making it go off. So I'm just gonna go leave it.
Okay.
Um,
Weird.
yeah, it's a dad's life sometimes.
All good. All good.
But the only, as I listen to you, the only thing that I think could make an argument against the idea of trying to get as much of what you are teaching into the roles as possible is potentially someone could see the lessons as introductory, almost like a buffet. And so everyone gets a sample of something, over, a large amount of time. And then I may like broccoli really well, and you may like the potatoes really well. And so then instead of going back, to the buffet and you get the broccoli and I get the potatoes, we just sort of, I choose the broccoli in my rolls, and I keep practicing that because I liked it and it felt good. And whatever thing that you were introduced to that worked well for you, you would use that. That's not to say that I think it's a great argument. I'm saying that's the only argument against trying to bring that ratio of teaching efficiency up.
But I agree with you, and that's actually that is usually argument that I feel people use, and I totally agree with that. But and what I say doesn't exclude what you're saying. So, but the point is that I agree that everybody, let's say, should be different. Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
we should have, let's say, when you see 50 different black belts. So my argument is, you can say same weight class, whatever. But my argument is we should teach that what made them good. Yeah, because they all have their 50 different games.
Yeah.
So to teach their all 50 games, it will be chasing a ghost. So so because they took like 10, 20 years to get good at those things, what they do. But
Right.
they're good at all the certain things. They're all good at certain things. So my argument is that mostly we have to teach what is common in them, as a like a shrimp and inverts and all those things, and also the submissions they know, because it's like a jab, cross, hook, body punch, all those things, like
Right.
armbar, triangle, or plata. They know all those fundamental sweeps, fundamental waves. You can use a sweep. You have ideas of fundamental, like submissions, how they work. So they know the mechanics, and open guard, and how side control and everything else, and then they play. So my argument is that maybe there's a method, but I believe there is. But let's say maybe there's a method that I can teach you those fundamentals, and I can leave the rest to you. So you
Mm-hmm.
can choose your broccoli, and you can choose whatever you want, and that is the wonderful part that you have to do on your own. But I have to just get you a certain level that you can make a choice. That, okay, why do you like a broccoli? What does it do? What does a carrot does? And so you understand that your choices, and you understand the fundamental ways to staying alive, and what kind of nutrients you need, so to speak. And then you can make a choice. Okay, I like this. And
Yeah.
also I think, as a body example that some people, digest certain things better and certain things less, and mitral flora of the gut and all those things. But but I think teaching foundation or fundamentals, and definitely I would have to teach. Let's say if I teach Kimura from side control, then it's a fundamental lock. We see it in also high level, so most everybody should know that.
Yeah.
But then I also leave it as an open end, because if I would do drills, I would go like, I would teach it actually backwards method. So I teach starting from Kimura, and then if you succeed, moving back more to chaos and starting further away. So then white belts and black belts could train together actually in the same class, because
Yeah.
black belts will just start further away from the lock and try to get there.
Something that I wanted to ask you, from having watched your video on how to get jiu-jitsu better at jiu-jitsu, had you read the book The Art of Learning by Josh Waitzkin?
No.
Okay,
You mean that guy, that Marcelo guy?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I know the guy. I haven't read the book, and I know he's he's a strong proponent of learning backwards.
Yeah, the idea of starting with the end in mind, and working from, just like you said, the least level of complexity, and then further, continuing to add chaos, but that chaos is always directed toward that minimal complexity at the end, which in this case is the Kimura, the finish.
Yeah, so because it makes so much sense when you make a chess comparison. You start with a king and a pawn and a king, and let's fight, and then a child can do it. There's some rules they learn really fast, and then you just add complexity. And so it is sad, because in jiu-jitsu we don't see it usually. When you see teaching some bass, it always starts from the between the legs, and then some 10 steps how to get to the side control. And also they do it this way in classes. So pedagogically, this method is not very even. I don't know. It's not even mainstream, close to mainstream.
Yeah.
So most things I teach in jiu-jitsu are backwards. I find it easier to teach. Even so there's certain methods and stuff that I think, when we go back to your argument, that I will maybe, let's say, do a Kimura. And so if you go like, I like broccoli, then I can also say that if you start from further away, you can add to the Kimura whatever you want. Let's say Kimura Tarikablata, Kimura armbar, Kimura north-south choke, Kimura maybe seat belt taking the back. So after Kimura, I will add the endlessness, whatever the word is, to that. Because you like, okay, everybody understands. Now you can put your own spin on it. Yeah, and then you find your own combinations, your own likes and stuff. And this is the way also we do the class. And then in the sparring section, I would say start more than average from Kimuras. If you're good, start away more from Kimuras, and then I would say more than, let's say, try to finish the Kimura, let's say, more than average, and then I allow you to put your own spin on it. So because I still want you to get good at Kimuras, not only abandon it and do your shit, but then, because it's a fundamental lock you have to know. And then if your conscience is clear, you've done then close to average already, more time than usual. Then you can start to add your own spin on it, and you deserve your freedom, and that everybody is loose, and they can play around, and everybody in the end will be different, but they all know the Kimura, they did the Kimura, and then I don't care afterwards. So usually that kind of method, basically I use in most classes what I do.
Yeah.
So it's always,
I really like the thought process there of you start with the end in mind, and then as the student demonstrates some proficiency against some resistance with that end, then you start to introduce open-endedness, so that they can flow on to something else that they like from this thing that they now have integrated, hopefully into their game at some level. So the question, going back to practicality, because I do like the method. I actually think that we all probably are doing that in sort of intuitively on our own a little bit. but not maybe systematizing ourselves in our classes to follow this sort of methodology. How did you come to the systematization? It's a big word. We in Kentucky don't like these kinds of words. If I got to say 4 or 5 syllables, that's 2 or 3 too many. What led you to the path of working within these kinds of frameworks? Because I don't necessarily, like I said, I think intuitively we sort of lean toward them. We all do, but you're breaking it down and putting it into a system and a method. And what I'm curious, what brought you to that conclusion that you needed to do that?
Well, I have to credit. I guess I have to credit a bit SPG. I was a part of SPG, Portland-based organization.
Mm-hmm.
I left them 2018, but Matt Thornton has a really nice article that I think the blog is aliveness101.blogspot.com,
Yeah.
and there's a article about drill. I think the article is named about drilling. And this is good, pretty long article, and I don't think people read it in a one time right away. I know I treat it as like a Bible a bit, so I think it worth reading, like, I don't know, 10, 20 times, and every time you pick something up, because you need to teach in some point more, and then you go back and you read it again, you teach again, and then you start to realize that there's more written there than first meets the eye.
Yeah.
So I think I was, lucky in that sense that our classes were right away, like, in a technical way. That's why we, in a way, I had the choice that I had to go to Alliance maybe in Finland, like under Brazilians and stuff, and then I had to. There's SPG, so we joined SPG for a bunch of reasons, and they're always the classes, let's say, were more like, I don't know, science based, or there was a lot about why we do things, and Matt always emphasized, like, why is important.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the some essence is also from there, and also the way my mind works, that just logic and why I do things makes sense. Because I can do some irrational things myself, but if I teach a class, I have to know what to do, and I just cannot use some crazy method that I would like, and I have to know that how it would work on a group of people. Also, my mom is a teacher, language teacher, but I don't know, did she influence with her work a little bit, that methods and everything else? I don't recall that, but that's kind of maybe the gene I have, so to speak, to make sense of things and to teach. I kind of like a weird thought, and so I think that's how it started. And then some books and stuff. I always recommend How We Learn, I think, and Peak, and the Talent is Overrated.
Yeah.
And so those things I always recommend, that also re-emphasize the stuff I already know, and taught me new things. And I always, I think, been interested of that how to do things and be a better coach. And I really think that the Aliveness blog was a big starting point that kind of pushed me towards that direction, and kind of said that there's a way. And Matt was already in the beginning, when we started, he was already doing like a side control fundamental 5. He was giving out more conceptual rules and how to see things in jiu-jitsu, and it's not only chaos, and we have certain things we have to do, and we have to watch. Fundamental 5 in top would be block the hip, attach the upper body, kill the near side arm, control the far side arm, and move as necessary. So we had certain conceptual rules that, okay, hip is always blocked. So it made things earlier, because there were certain statistical things that happened all the time that maybe he noticed, or maybe he got those rules somewhere else. I don't know. And then because otherwise you have to do like a test rolling like 1,000 times, you see, oh, hip open means they pull guard. But if somebody tells you, like, block the hip always, it just makes so much sense, and it just skyrockets your learning ability, because you don't have to deal with that problem anymore. So certain concepts and stuff, they emerge from there, and then it kind of, I think, fascinates me, and all the technicality of the things, why this and why that. And that also what pushed me towards what I do now, the defensive stuff, and why certain things, they don't make sense to me, and people can't answer them also to me, so I had to go my own way
Yeah.
not like I don't talk about SPG, but just my own way as finding solutions, because people couldn't answer them if I pointed out those illogical differences with positions. And then so I kind of followed my own thing and trusted that. And I guess, yeah, I've always been fascinated how to make a better class, how to give a better class,
Yeah.
because I think I don't know why, but I'm driven also from the stuff I said, that if I do something in a class and people don't use it, I kind of waste my time, And I remember these days I get less stressed about that. I get stressed also, but not because of that. But if you teach people, like, you think it's a very good class and very good sweep and stuff, and you put a lot of details, and then they go roll and they can't pull it off, or they won't use it. You go like, for fuck's sake, what do I what do I have to do to, like, make it happen? Or then it's, you can go like, okay, maybe it's their fault, they're stupid. But then in the end you realize, no, it's maybe they're not stupid, maybe it's the way, you teach, and then you do the math of new techniques, and then you
So
understand people can put so many new techniques into their game, so it becomes your problem and problem of jiu-jitsu, that I've been taught this way, but it doesn't make sense because they run into wall, and you have sort of like, you know you
so
feel my stress.
I just want to point out that all the things that my instructor taught me that I was not able to use, that was his fault. So so when he watches this, and I know he will, that was on you, buddy. It wasn't your crap student who
So
who's
because
not.
as a coach, I really feel, and I talk to other coaches, I feel sad when I put my heart out and, show good techniques, and they're not being used. So
Yeah.
it's like, why do I when I waste my time to put this, and only one person picks it up from the 50 maybe. So, and it keeps using that. So I feel so much of coaches good heart kind of flows to the emptiness. So how can we raise the productiveness of the class? So if somebody shows something they know through, and then can people pick it off, or do they have to pick it off, or how coaches should even teach? Maybe they shouldn't teach their own game so much even. That's also the argument, that we should teach people to find their own game. Because
Yeah.
coaches really easy trap is to start teach your own game. But just that's one thing that's good, that we see 50 black belts. They're all different 50 games. So the evidence is that we should not teach their game, but we should allow people to develop their own. So what are the
And
fundamentals?
what I really like about what you're saying there is that you're analyzing and saying what are the fundamental movements and moves that make this thing work as a self defense or a competitive system, depending upon which path you prefer. And then how can we lay a framework so that someone can be fundamentally sound and then choose their own game and express those fundamentals in whatever way that they choose,
Yeah.
so that the fundamentals flow through their movement at all times. And if you looked at them, we could say that is a fundamentally sound jiu-jitsu practitioner, but they look different than another fundamentally sound jiu-jitsu practitioner whose game is different.
And I also believe that I don't believe in belt programs, that there's a black belt techniques, that I think it's a scam. Because I think after a purple belt, people are, I think almost, in purple belt, people are free. Do like I would just be a guide mostly, and their job is to get there. And if they don't want to get there, like higher level, I can't really get them there,
Right.
because there's certain, like, it's not even like a technical ability anymore. It's like they understand stuff, but it's just timing and figuring stuff out. And so I think the belt, I don't mind the belt system, but I think some people are saying, like, there's a brown belt sweeps and there's a black belt passes. There's I think if you really start to
This stupid toy. Oh my
if you
God.
really start to debate stuff, then it falls apart quickly. Those arguments. Did you find it?
No, that's what's annoying. It's hidden in my garage somewhere. Uh,
Maybe now it's not off again. So ah,
I tell you what, I'm gonna step outside. Uh, this is super annoying, and I apologize for this. Uh, I don't know what is causing that. This is gonna get really loud for a second. I'll. Okay, so we just had 30 seconds of dead air. So I
no
get to be
worries.
completely embarrassed by my lack of professionalism. I can't figure out. I couldn't find the damn thing, and it just kept going off. Anyway, what we're talking about, previous, before the interruption there, was dealing with the idea of, how we create separate games, but stay fundamentally true. And I really like what you're aiming for and what your concept is, in terms of the fundamentals are set, and if we do those correctly, then we all look different doing them, but we're all doing those things correctly. And
Yeah, I think it you can see it anywhere you do, anywhere you, whatever you teach. I think music. So there's certain things, and then we start to play and interpreter and stuff. And I guess you have to learn the symphony, so to speak, from the note to the note.
yeah,
But then jiu-jitsu is not a symphony. Symphony is awesome, but it's fixed. And then there's interpretation of that also. But jiu-jitsu is a live thing, so
yeah,
it's
jujitsu is
certain.
jazz.
Yeah. So you can't teach that. Just like you can't. It's always mutating, so to speak. So how do you do that? And I think just thinking that you would just keep learning. In a way you do, but it's a different argument. But you keep learning every day new technique, and it never ends. So so how many techniques do I need for a black belt or something? So the question is so wrong for that, because we can see Roger Gracie style, or things that they don't do much and they win. And then we see like a crazy all option style that work also. And then we see some between. So we clearly see that all kinds of style can put to work, and make it to the highest level.
Mm-hmm.
And then the question is, okay, how do we teach people the fundamentals that all those games include? And so what are them? So and then how to teach them, because I understand also the argument, oh, but if I do every class Kimura and then people leave me, that coaches have usually simplified argument that if I do every class like side control armbar and then this, I run out of techniques to teach. So and I think this is a pedagogical issue and not actually uh, you know technical issue, so to speak, because if you do a Kimura, I think the argument is, if white belts can start from the Kimura, and black belts, if you feel like it, you can start as far away from Kimura as you can, and still try to have certain percentage of wins to get them, to get there. So your
Right.
interest stays up, and then white belt and black belt can train in the same class and forever, because if you get good at this, move further. Yeah. So the interest as a game is always up, and this is the skill you also need in a higher level. You see black belt matches. This is what they do. They still kimura each other. There's no magic. There's some, tarikaplatas and some funny things also going on, but mostly you know what the submission is.
Right.
So then it's how do you make it interesting that people will be how do you gamify the play or the teaching, so it would be interesting to play this forever. And if let's say, and also if you don't make a defender better, you will lose interest, because your success ratio is 100 even if you're furthest away. So then it's about, okay, how do now we got furthest away with a dumb partner, and then now let's make the partner as smart, in all the ranges in a very close, and then the more we move away, and then open guard, smart, best open guard player. So pass the guard to get the kimura. So we can always make it the road the hardest. So defensive skills, what I'm promoting also, that we should concentrate on more, or show techniques against more, is that it makes attacks all interesting. And same kimura that people think it's boring, and a good defense, it's goddamn interesting to finish that, because your ratio is not 100% even. So then everybody can train that kimura an hour. Everybody has a laugh on their face. They're learning something good they can apply right away in sparring, and then they don't even consider it's a boring class, because it was all mostly progressive resistance, kind of live training, so to speak.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like a dead repetition of kimura left and right and then new technique. That seems like that would be like a bad method of maybe training. But the way I teach, it's like 10-minute warm-up, 20 minutes techniques, and then half an hour drilling and half an hour in sparring with the special rules. So most class is done basically just always drilling with a live resistance. And technique part is 20 or even 15 minutes, as short as possible, to get them right away to play. And I know some classes I've seen people teach 3 techniques. There's a famous half an hour, 20 minutes warm-up. There's 3 techniques, 10 minutes usually apart from each other, and then you roll. So none of the techniques is done with resistance mostly. Yeah, the chaotic resistance.
Right.
And then you did 3 things, and then you have to spar live. And it's super hard to pull them off, because there's no understanding on how they connect or how they work against a live opponent. And then people excluding them from the roll and forgetting them, the percent is higher. So because they're not drilled and they're not emphasized during rolls. Because I have actually ruled that in a roll, I praise the risky behavior. So let's say if you have to do the kimura, so then I would say, let's say kimura, that then the other guy has to let person to get more kimuras. Yeah. So first of all, if it's easy to get, then they give it less, but they still have to be more propone giving them kimuras, right, so they can practice. So I can get good at defense. And so if you get to the kimura, and all the defenses, all the resistance actually drops to 60 to 70. So both of us can figure stuff out. So the new and risky and not known, unknown behavior, unknown resistance, and trying something new is praised by resistance dropping to 60, 70. So we can easily play there. And if I escape, go back to resistance. If I tap, then okay, next time I give you less kimura, so you have to fight it more, but I have to give it anyway. So I learned to give you less, so my defense gets better. And you learn to get it for a harder opponent, and you learn that it's harder to finish because I'm better. So I force also the kimura giver give kimuras, because people are avoiding the submission escapes. Their defense is usually, I don't give you shit. But I force them to give, and then if you lose, you're meant to lose, because there's a rule, because you have to give them kimura. So I take a fear of losing away from that, because it's an experimental loss. But then I make them.
I think that's that attitude, the idea of the experimental loss, was a revelation to me when I came to that willingness to fail in the name of trying to find something, and being okay with losing. Because I'm a competitive guy. I think everybody who does this has some of that. And I don't like to lose. But what I found was, when I gave up the idea that I need to win a lot, and I transitioned to, if someone beats me with something, either A, they were doing better jiu-jitsu than me, and I like jiu-jitsu, so I should be happy that good jiu-jitsu won, or B, I tried something and experimentally it didn't work out. It wasn't that I was bad. It was that the thing I was doing, either A, is incorrect, or I did it incorrectly. So it took the emotional toll of loss away from me, and made it where now I'm just like kind of roughhousing with my friends, and trying to improve, and trying to get the most out of the training time, as opposed to get the most wins out of this winning and losing time.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, because the key is, I think, what everybody emphasizes, the more people talk about it, then it's when I'm rolling, I'm mostly isolating all the time. because I'm always want to achieve something, try something, and then I don't mind losing if I know why I lost. Then next time I try more, you know. And if I don't know why I lost, I have to figure out the answer, and then because it frustrates me because I got beat, I don't know why.
Hmm.
So that stresses the shit out of me. And so when I know why I lost, it's a timing issue. Yeah, somebody was better, blah blah blah, you know. And then maybe some timing option was missing, so I have to figure it out, do it again. And that's what I also want to emphasize to people, that you know, if you lose and you don't know why, then it's like a torture. And I don't agree with the statement when people say, oh, we have to enjoy the sport, you know. I think it's super hard to enjoy when you don't know why you get beat up, you know. And when you know why you lose or why you lost, because, oh, I had to do this and I didn't, and then you know, when you understand the process of, okay, I gave underhooks away and that's why Kimura happened, so next time I fight for more for it.
Right.
So, and you can make a better decision, and you go, okay, let's play again. So you can isolate, you can solve your problems. And I think in internet there's a lot of articles about, in books they call it also deliberate practice, that you do this and then you measure, you do the experiments, and you're always working on something, and then losing and finding out is a part of problem, you know. Like, let's say, I think you're a parent, so imagine, like, if
Yeah.
the if your kid learns to walk, and in a 50th try the kid goes, fuck this shit, you know. Because the walk is never perfect, they're like stumbling, you know, they have no clue what it is, and they just keep doing that. Or, you know, or the light bulb guy, the Edison, you know, the legend is like there's a 10,000 tries. So imagine after 1,000 tries you go like, oh, I give up, you know. So always doing tests, and okay, something was this and I have more idea, one idea, I have this idea. So always kind of like deliberate practice, that if you roll, you have certain mindset, you want to explore, not always play your A game, you know. There's time for that. If you want to really go like, you know, like this, okay, let's test each other, where we at. But if you always test each other in our age, I think, yeah. So
Hmm.
we have certain, like, you know, certain, like, certain injuries happening, like the left and right, so to speak. So in our age, so to speak, it's maybe safer to go once in a while, go like 100%, but mostly it's a flowy, competitive, but also exploring roles. So we're finding out new techniques, trying stuff, failing. So it's fun, you know, and we tap into different kind of mind settings, playful, fighting, you know, exploring, losing, winning. So I think this all kind of always on. I think it's dangerous, and then people have injuries, and then they're out 2 months
I
again.
also
You
think
know,
it even if you took the injury part of that equation out, I think that slows progress, just because if I have to only do my A game because, you know, I'm going to be wrestling Priet and I want to show Priet how good I am, then that's literally the only thing that I can explore. So, in you know, from a weightlifting background, with every lift, there comes a point of diminishing returns where,
yeah,
for the same effort, you get a lot less improvement or gain, just because you've gotten close to the maximum adaptation within that lift at this time. So we need to change it up. We need to change our rep range, or, you know, our motion, or whatever we're doing, so that we can continue the adaptation cycle. So I think that sense of experimentation and willingness to try things that you aren't good at, those are those are the ones that have, like, you know, that kind of lowest hanging fruit element, where it's like, if I really suck at arm bars and I get just from really bad to like sort of decent, my game gets a whole lot better
yeah.
just from getting decent at that one thing. Whereas if I'm really great at Kimuras and I get just a little bit greater at Kimuras, like my game actually hasn't changed that much.
Yeah. So it's lifting the average. That's what I recently talked about. I think I did a post in Facebook also, that it works other way also. The example you showed, it's great. Yeah, just it's like how to lift your average, you know. So you want to get arm bars better, or you're gonna get decent in arm blocks, you know, guillotines and stuff, and actually your average attack, you know, success ratio gets higher. Even this way, you can think about this, that, you know, if you have a decent open guard, then does it make sense to just get even better in open guard, or maybe it makes sense to lift a little bit your average in escapes from side and bottom positions.
Mm-hmm.
So when you make a mistake in a guard and you don't get stuck right away in side control having crossface and underhooks, so you can really easily, let's say, more easily get back to guard and attack again, instead of just making a guard better. And if they pass, you're totally messed up, you know.
Yeah.
So there's a really, like, I think for a lot of people, doing something else for the result of a guard, it is like feels like going backwards. Oh,
Yeah.
why? But I want to get good in guard. Why I have to do the escapes? It's like there's a logical fallacy, like in armbar stand. I want to get better in attacks. Why I have to do other submissions? Because armbar is, why not make armbar better? No, have like a 5 average submission than one good. You know, there's arguments for having both, but in a way, 5 average submissions. In a way, you're more multitaskable person than just guy with an armbar. You know.
Yeah. I think
So yeah.
the opposition element to that too is, let's say I'm really good at arm bars. Well, I can actually stop training arm bars for a while and improve my arm bar by training arm bar escapes,
Yeah.
because I will develop a greater amount of sensitivity to what I need to shut down, what are the effective escapes, and how can I preemptively shut those down with my attack that I'm good at. So,
Yeah.
like for your example of the person who has a great open guard, they could also get improvement from their open guard by spending a lot of time training passing the open guard, because they will develop sensitivity and see where the traps are, and what things that the guard person's potential can be, and what gives them trouble, and then they can put those things to use in their guard.
So that's why I also like defense, because that kind of pushes people's attacks better. Because if the defense is weak, the attack will not develop any higher. You know, there's no motivation for that attack to adapt anymore. But if the defense
Mm-hmm.
is really good, then try to take Eduardo Telles back with your back takes. It's like, oh shit, my back takes will not work against him. Why? Because I haven't developed against that turtle my back takes, because that's the best turtle we have. So that's usually my argument. And also, I would like to say that I don't mind when one guy, actually, I think it's very important for coaches. I don't push people to become average in 5 instead of being specialist in 1. Because usually when somebody wants to be a specialist, I usually will have a talk with them. That like, do you know what this choice does? If you really love arm bars, and if I say, okay, try to be, other stuff also, and no, I don't like them. So because usually then I talk that what comes with a specialization, what kinds of narrow games, and I make that person himself accountable for his choice, because as a gym I need specialists, because of that guy's armbar, everybody's armbar defense will get like a vaccinated, like in a very fast time. But
Sure.
I give him also freedom that in any time in point in that you can always change your mind if you feel after 2 years I'm bored, and then be my guest, and maybe then he's ready more like to have this average game and adding kimuras and all those things. So I usually don't force these days, because in a past I run into problems, because if I make somebody change their mind, they're gonna hate me a bit.
Yeah.
And but because I don't know what the future holds, and maybe that one guy has the possibility to be the best guy in the world in arm bars. So why do I make him average? Average at everything. So if person has that, make sure that they know what the risks are, what the benefits are. A gym needs definitely a specialist also, and then they can always change their mind if they feel like it. But I have to say what I say, and then they're accountable, and that makes my life easier, because I can just not be accountable for everything. That I have to make people like independent as fast as I can, so they can make their own mind and make their own mistakes also.
Yeah. Well, and I agree, and I don't want to sound like I'm saying everyone must train the things that they're not good at, if that wouldn't be fun to them. In reality, whatever keeps you training jujitsu is what you need to be training. So if, let's just say, you think the berimbolo is the only thing in jujitsu that's cool, well, then by all means become the world's expert in berimbolos and have fun with it. Like, if you're having fun, you're going to be on the mat. Your partners are going to challenge you. They're going to find out, what works for them to shut down this amazing berimbolo attack that you have. And so you're going to get better and better because your partners will get better from dealing with you. And so, I think that goes back to Ryan Hall. Just, he said, just follow your muse, whatever you like, do that. And, your training partners will force you to adapt it. They'll either force you to move on or force you to become so good at it that it can't be stopped.
Yeah, because I find I know what you mean, because I'm just going to say it because it's a cliche to say, follow what you like. It's like, it's always dangerous because that gives some people like also excuse to do stupid things,
Well,
because I
yeah.
find people still need to be guided, in a bit,
Mm-hmm.
because if you go like, oh, follow your bliss or do whatever you love, it's like you will start to love things what you get good at. But how do you know what you love because you're not getting good at it yet? So I think I know what you mean, but if somebody's listening, so if, oh, he said what I should do what I like, because that's also can be taken always wrong way and give some people that are stubborn and are actually doing the wrong thing, so to speak, give them excuse to go like, no, I do what I like, so I think that's like a slippery road, but in that context, what we're talking about it, so it's not that.
So let's transition just a little bit. We're very close. I think the website defensivebjj.com has gone live. Is that correct?
No, no, we have
Not
some
quite live.
no, we have some testers. So some beta testers are in.
Okay.
A bunch of people are in and they're lurking around there. Not like one, but there's plenty of more. And so we're a little bit opening in stages. That's not my job. That's my business partner's job to figure it out, and he knows what he's doing.
Sure thing.
So the public launch is 5th October.
Okay.
That's Monday, and I don't know what time is Monday. I don't know. It's kind of weird to say it, but let's say Monday. So then we'll be publicly open, and then we'll see what happens. We have, I think once we said 500 whatever emails already signed up as people pre-registered, showing an interest.
Yeah.
So probably it's higher than right now than before the 500. So there is weirdly, enough interest that I'm very nervous actually, because it's one thing to do, seminars and stuff and globetrotters and people put, watch and put likes and stuff, but it's actually something else that people will pay for it. And so I'm, I'm down talking myself, I know, but it's like, oh, do I get exposed? Oh, your thing is only Running Man, and if you only have walking Running Man and stuff, can you teach it a full year? Like, can you make is it only gonna be 3 videos?
Yeah.
Like, and then you just full year. I'm talking about 3 videos. So can I keep it up? And can I create value for years? I don't know how long is this project gonna last. Maybe 3-5 years. I don't like to think I can do this forever, because clearly certain, I don't know, like if there's gonna be watered down a little bit, but as knowing me, I said already 2 years ago, what now? But then I'm still discovering, adding new things, and now we're doing Darsen Anaconda escapes. So it's still that everything is going, and we're trying to figure stuff out. So that's the site is for kind of like my way and my research. The site is not going to be about everything. Like, okay, how about passing the guard? I'm probably not going to talk about that. So it's going to be like, as the name said, defensive BJJ, but it's a trick a bit, because I guess you can call about, okay, what if by I pass and they're defending, and how do I defend the pass?
Right.
So you can play with stuff, but I think more we're gonna talk about still, escapes and all those things first, and maybe even how to keep the open guard, retention, and all those things.
Well, as someone who loves escapes, I'll give you a little bit of my history. When I started jujitsu, I started in a class of a bunch of big, tough MMA fighters, like a bunch of pro MMA fighters, very athletic. Almost all of them were purple belt or above. It was me and 2 other white belts, and those 2 white belts had both been training for like a year and a half when I started. So, I was just getting wrecked every day. And so what I found was, because like I could not put a guard together in that time period with my shitty movement that I had, that could really stop these guard passing attacks, because they were just too good at it. So I found myself in submissions all the time, and so I really just started studying submission escapes, and just fell in love with that, because I found that the extension and the openness that someone has when they are going for a submission, if you can reverse that, uh, oftentimes you can put them in a lot of danger. So it's I'm not saying that someone should spend their time, like trying to just escape, but I have found that if someone is a lot better than me, my best opportunity, my best likelihood of ever submitting them or pinning them, or getting some sort of a positional advantage, is through submission escapes, more than passing their guard. Like if I was to try and pass like a black belt's guard, that's a lot of work and a lot of like a lot of skill that's going to be required. Whereas if I'm really good at escaping their armbar, then I usually escape the armbar to their back. And so, how often do you get the chance to be on a black belt's back if you aren't one? That's pretty hard. So I don't want the message to be, hey, follow Harrison's path and just have a shit guard and then escape submission holds, because that's not long term. That's not a great path. But it did keep me excited about coming to jiu-jitsu class, and that's why I go back to that idea of like follow your muse. Like whatever makes you excited to come to class, that's what is going to be a good thing to learn, because you won't quit. And if you don't quit, then eventually you will get good at jiu-jitsu.
Because I think your path is kind of very hard one, because that's the usually when most people get weeded out, and the let's say tough people stay.
Well, I don't think it's fair to call me tough. I was just sort of, like willing to. I just knew that I was going to be stuck with that, so I had to get good in that realm. If I didn't, then I was just going to be stuck with it.
There's also like a social aspect, and when it's amongst friends and all those things, and people well, and you're gonna stick around more. But so that's why we have like a beginner's course, and then this and that, and then it's they learn jiu-jitsu with their own kind, and that's socially more acceptable, and you don't feel so stupid, and those kind of things that people have those anxieties with, martial arts, new thing.
And I most certainly did.
Yeah.
I definitely felt stupid all the time, and to be perfectly honest, I still find myself feeling stupid a lot. So I just have learned to accept it.
Yeah, but now when you're in it, when you're in the system and you understand that you have your comfort zone, then it's fun to be stupid, because you don't have a correlation. Oh, I'm stupid, and then like I'm personally stupid. It's just a stupid feeling, and not as a stupid person. So, but people, trying something new, intimidating, and also it's a physical combat. So losing means something totally else than just losing.
Very consequential.
Yeah, it's like, okay, he beat me, and it's not like I lost you in basketball. Like Joe Rogan has said famously a quote that if you beat somebody in fighting, then that's it. There's no like, okay, let's do a one-on-one in basketball. It's like it doesn't mean anything anymore. So and if you always beat somebody in basketball, they can go like, I will beat you ass in the street, and so that's like a higher level,
Yeah, exactly.
So, like like a football, people get angry, they're still gonna hit each other. That's the last thing they do. That's the ultimate domination. And
we
so
used to have
basketball and stuff. The games are just like people's way to have fights, but not with fists.
Yeah, when I was in high school, I was part of the like we called it the academic team. It was like a scholars program. We did like trivia and stuff like that, and sometimes we'd have like just like practice debates and things like that. And So if you lost the debate, the way that you could always win the debate, even if you sucked, would just be to say, "Yeah, but I could kick your ass."
That's always the best argument. But imagine you just somebody, you kick somebody's ass and you go like, okay, but now we can debate about it. It's like, no, the debate is over. So that's what the physical is. That, but we learn when we do jiu-jitsu, we learn to not associate that loss with just I physically lost to another man, that he's superior, It's just
Right.
a game and everything else. It becomes like a basketball game, that it's just like it's a game we play, and yes, it looks like a fighting and everything else. But first, I know people have told me it's very hard to lose to another man,
Yes, sir.
and it's like, oh shit, it's like now I'm less of a man or something,
Hmm.
because he
And
could broke my arm or he could choke me out, but he didn't, and it's a really strange thing. And when guys get first submitted by girl, and then it's like then it's super confusing. Like, okay, who am I as a man? That I lost to a girl, and so it's interesting stuff. And if the social aspect of the club is healthy, and they get over it, then it's not gonna be like, haha, you lost to a girl. It's gonna be more different, attitude and atmosphere in a gym. So people don't mind that. But first, I think they're super surprised that they look around like, oh shit, okay, who like did anybody see, like, or is it like a looked bad upon, or something? But
yeah.
I don't think it happens in a gym.
Well, I think going back to that idea, for me, if I'm someone who likes jujitsu, if I get submitted by a girl, with the physical disadvantages that women have, in relation to men, even if a woman is the same size as me, she's not going to be as strong. There's just physical differences. Then clearly her jujitsu had to be better than mine, and so jujitsu won. And if I like jujitsu, then I have to be happy that jujitsu won, even if it beat me. You know what I mean? Like that's
Yeah.
what that's the way that I came to that, and to that acceptance, because I had been submitted by girls, and at first I was like, oh shit, what does this mean? And then I was like, actually, that was a really slick dart she just put on me. Like I can't complain about that. Like if I got hit with that darts again, hopefully I would have a better defense. But that was pretty rad.
Yeah. So I think it makes, like, makes us deal with some shit we haven't thought about it before. Like, to quote again, like, I think Rogan or something, that we haven't thought about certain things, what this mean, what does mean, what our self perception is. And I think the gym environment in that sense is very healthy, that to
Hmm.
face our ideas and fears, and then to overcome that. And like people say, even I know some people have said literally to me, I asked them, like, do you really mean that, or is it like cliche you say? Like, one guy had a really hard trouble with a company, like a really, like a nice entertainment company, and like a lot of trouble. And he said, like, Priit, uh, it's like, I know it sounds cliche, but I swear it's true, that those times when I was inside control, and I got out finally, they taught me to find a way to not go like berserk mode and just go like ape shit, but to stay calm, to figure it out, to understand where I am, and to try to find solution. And
Yeah,
those kind of experiences, he said, I swear they have helped me to figure out how to save my company. So I was
yeah.
like, God damn it. So it's like a little bit like a lab. You can do like a tests and tests, and kind of carry that information that it's possible to get out of some deep trouble. And in somehow you have that belief also in life.
I
And
definitely
because,
think
yeah,
I definitely think that jujitsu is very entrepreneurial. Um, there's a cliche in business. And I can't remember who the quote is, who said it, but in school we get the lesson, and then we get the test. And so if we learn the lesson, then we're going to ace the test. In business, and I think in a lot of ways in jujitsu, you get the test, and then if you pass it, you get the lesson.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
in
I don't know who it was, but it was a good quote.
and so I think jujitsu has that element of like, as long as you can survive, if you can just stay alive, then eventually you might be able to find your way to wiggle out of this situation and pass the test. So it's like the first lesson is don't die. And then, if we get ourselves to a place where we're not going to die, figuratively, obviously, then we can continue to find solutions. And in business, it's the same thing. If you run out of cash, then you die. But if you find a way just to continuously have enough cash to find the thing that'll work, then you get out and you start to have, a successful business. But if you die, then you get the lesson. So
Yeah, so I think always like that in jiu-jitsu, that quick feedback cycle, that you do something good, you get feedback, something bad, feedback. And in life, it usually takes longer. So it's like, I call it like a mini lab, that you can really have those experiences in a small amount.
Yep.
And you can figure out stuff and do experiments. And then somehow it's a cliche to say, like, jiu-jitsu, it talks about the life. But I think it's really in a right way. I think as a lab, as a feedback mechanism, you learn to trust that, in trouble, get out. And in life, we don't do those experiments. In life, usually everything matters. It's like you can't play with a business like that. Do test here and here, and you don't know. But so you can try, go here, and I think the willingness and understanding that you can try, and how mentally it works, and then you do a better test in life with your stuff. But you're willing to more try, even, or you set up your business in a way that you can try and you don't fail so much.
Right.
But
Just keep
it's
your
not like a
failures small.
certainty. Yeah.
Yeah.
The
If you
risks
keep your failures
management,
small,
yeah,
then you
and the
you can keep
certainty
trying.
of success. And so I think it's a really nice that we can do those tests and teach people something through that skill, like development. So really find it very useful.
Well, I think that's an awesome place for us to close today, because I think we've covered some really cool ideas about in our last talk we talked about kind of like how to approach jujitsu, and in this talk we've talked a little bit about how to use jujitsu to approach life. And I think you're onto something there. I think that your friend who was having trouble with his company was definitely onto something as well. So we're going to put a link to defensivebjj.com in the description and the show notes. And that way, because it's not live today, but probably by the time someone listens to this, if it's just a few days ahead, then it will be live and they can check it out. And it's going to be, I personally think this site is going to be really, really good for the old rollers crowd, because the style that you're teaching, from having watched it, is a very, it doesn't require a great deal of athleticism or speed. It requires cunning and intelligence. And so I think the defensive BJJ methodology and thought process is one that we can take a lot from as we age, for sure.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, because I also get like a lot of actually messages from older grapplers that it has helped them and they have survived, and blah blah blah. So it was really like I didn't know that I would tap into that market, or that group of people that would be interested, because I did it first more myself, and I'm trying to solve a problem, and I'm getting older myself,
Mm-hmm.
so it helps me to keep doing, I think, jiu-jitsu as an older person. But I'm
Yes.
trying to answer the question. But then I was like, oh shit, there's a definitely like an age group that this benefits directly.
Mm-hmm.
They're usually facing like younger dudes and all those things. So I know they can't maybe beat them, but they can still roll and enjoy. They can still roll and enjoy the sport, and slow the game down, and so so beneficial for those age groups.
Well, shoot, turn the wrong way here.
Yeah.
Preet, thank you so much for joining me. It's been really awesome. I know you're currently in a brief quarantine, but that's going to be over, and
Yes.
you're gonna be back on the mat and teaching. And it's just always such a thrill to talk to you. I want to make sure that I get that across. Like, you're someone that really gets me excited about jujitsu, and
I appreciate that.
that's a thing. Just like I was kind of going back, like whatever makes this fun as well, it keeps us on the mat. You're one of those guys that I get excited about and want to learn more about your methods and your methodology. So I'm really excited to explore defensivebjj.com myself, and then just once again bring you back hopefully soon and get to learn more about you.
Let's do it. Thank you for this.
Thank you.